Hi, everybody. It's Bob Ost. This is Theater Resources Unlimited. It's Friday. It's April 4th, I think. And this is our 257th? Yes, 257th consecutive community gathering that we started doing back April 17th, 2020. We did this as a community service. We basically went into something that I think everybody would love to forget, but can't help but remember, called shutdown. We were in shutdown and quarantine, and we had nothing to do. We didn't know what to do with ourselves. So somebody suggested I open up a Zoom room, and I said, "What's Zoom?" And then they finally explained it to me and held my hand and got me to not actually panic about it. And I kind of liked it. And I opened up a room, and people have been coming to these things every week since 2000, April 17, 2020. So conversations have been everything. I look when you're putting together 257 consecutive weeks of these, you become a little lenient about what topics you're going to deal with. It's like desperation sets in sometimes. But we've managed to keep it pretty much within the framework of the arts. Most of it has been theater related. Some of it has been about other aspects of the arts. Some of it has been about politics. We've also done a couple politics things, political things. Um, Although these days politics is kind of a little dangerous, I guess. So I won't be political today. Um, Today an old friend who's coming in, and a lot of times I'm actually interviewing old friends because I have a lot of friends who do interesting things. Um, some of you may or may not know that right now we're in the middle of a 1 month event that we call the Audition Conference for Theater, ACT, and it's a number of different programs that we've put together that are all sort of acting related, actor related, and it ends in a uh, weekend audition, April 26th and 27th. And we have like 40 or 50 theater companies and producers and people coming to see people. So we're putting a focus on actors right now. And so today, it just so happens that I have a friend who has been part of something called Act Outside the Act Outside the Box, which is a good clue as to what her interests are. And yes, she does coach people who are mostly actors. But today we're actually going to expand the conversation a little bit beyond just actors. We're going to be talking about the magnetic mindset. And you all have one. And it's not in your top drawer, it's in your head. So get ready to bring out your magnetic mindset. And we're going to talk about how to attract positive things in your life. Um, it will relate to actors, but it will relate to other people as well. And I'm going to actually bring Lisa on, and I'm going to have her just give a little introduction about who she is and what her background is, and then I'm going to join her in a moment. So, hi, Lisa, welcome.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for having me. I have so much to share with this group and a few pivots to make in that introduction.
Okay.
Uh, so many of you have heard of my former company that I owned for 20 years called Actors Connection. So I purchased Actors Connection back in the year 2000 from Bunny and Bernie Levine and ran it there in New York for close to 10 years, then took a step back, opened up my second consulting and coaching company called Act Outside the Box, where the act actually is a double entendre for action. Because what I learned at Actors Connection by relating to agents, particularly and casting directors who were seeking, connections with talent, um, is so much different than what talent thought. And because they related to me like the business person, because it's show business, right? And so we spoke a different language. And I felt then like, shit, if they knew what I knew, I could help them fast track to what they want and be happy with the results sooner. There was a knowledge gap. So that's why I started Act Outside the Box in 2020 and remained what I'll call a silent partner, moved to LA. I'm in LA too, Patricia. And by the way, hey, RK, it's been a minute. Um, And so in 2020, we shuttered our Actors Connection physical doors. It's now exists online. I am no longer a part of that, focusing all on Act Outside the Box. And so one of the things that I'll share, by the way, my specialty within that specialty, in teaching business and marketing to actors and artists, was how to get an agent. So that kind of became my niche within a niche, right? And then I became an agent. I became a talent agent out here in Los Angeles, head of the commercial division for 90210 Talent, and
And
learned even more.
tell us how much you love that.
I hated being an agent. And I'll tell you why. Honestly, it's because, and it's a long story that I'm going to try to make short, is that actors would come to me because, as we all know, you have to have your platform, your digital presence, and it has to speak for you when you're not in the room. And even when you have an agent, we're using that same digital platform. And I ended up going back to coaching and training my clients. Look, man, you got to make this, because I'm not doing it for you. We don't do it for you. How to have the right pictures and how to have the right placement and how to have the right clips. And I was spending so much more time coaching my clients to get them market ready, that I wasn't making the money that I felt that I deserved to represent them. Like, if you could come to me already ready, and then I got very particular, and then I said, I'm out. I just didn't enjoy it. This is a different business than when, you know, longtime agents who've been at it forever have probably left, and everybody's pushing buttons. And I'm on Zoom now like everybody else, but back before the pandemic, this was 2016, 2017, I was like, I am not built for this. I'm a people person. I want to be in a room. I like, now we've translated these rooms into Zoom rooms, but we still love, that's why we're in live audiences, right? This is Theater Resources Unlimited. Uh, so that's kind of in a nutshell, but
Okay, but it's Theater Resources Unlimited, but I've grown accustomed to Zoom, and we're doing most of our programs virtually. We do some things that are hybrid, and we do a couple live events, especially our theater parties. Um,
yes, but the theater itself is still a live stage production. Like
yeah,
the people that are writing musicals here, and then all of that is we're still like I don't know. Did you see that movie 1,000 years ago starring Bruce Willis called The Surrogate or
no,
Surrogates, where you just every morning you wake up, you just hook into the thing, and your surrogate goes out in the world, and you just sit there all day. It's like and and
ugh.
you can be whoever you want because your surrogate can get killed, but you're not because you're safe because you're in anyway, rent it. It's we're almost there, folks, right? We don't think for ourselves. We have artificial intelligence. So I'm just saying, I still like live.
Okay, I do too. However, in terms of running the organization and running our programs, we've developed a global audience, literally
Yeah.
a global audience. So it's really to our advantage to be able to serve people that are not necessarily in the New York area. So that's one of the reasons why we keep doing things virtually to serve as many people as possible. I want to go back to something. Um, you wanted to pivot, so tell me what are the things I said wrong?
Well, so here's the thing. I'm not actor centric anymore. One of the reasons I
Ah,
did the magnetic mindset series is because when I was coaching and training just actors in the area of business, this is what I noticed. And this may not be an actor thing, this may be a creative thing, maybe a human thing. I could tell you exactly the steps to take. Exactly, because I know they work, rinse and repeat over and over again to get an agent. Easy peasy. If you do them, you'll get one. I can tell you exactly how to have your casting platforms. Da, 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 da. Easy peasy. If you do it, you're going to get more auditions. But what I found is that the missing piece was the inspired energy to do it, the I'm not getting my results fast enough. It was all around mindset. And I was losing mojo working with people, dragging people through a process that their head wasn't on straight. So I became honestly more of a life coach. So what's missing that you're not taking these actions that are proven steps? So I started to delve more into that. And then there was an illness in my family in 2022, and I shut down my company to take care of and be in service of my sister who had cancer. She's fine. She's fine. But it took a while. She's healthy. but it also gave me, on top of COVID, a step back. Like, why am I doing anything that I'm doing anymore? Like, I know I'm on the planet to be of service to people, to pass on the knowledge that I've learned that's come to me through other amazing individuals. And I love coaching. I love being a part of somebody's creative process that brings them from here to where they want to go. That's my jam. So I did magnetic mindset as a way to reach more creatives, not just the actor community, by including filmmakers, talent reps, actors, other coaches, podcasters. Today's guest is a voiceover actor who also teaches a voiceover class. But 3 years ago, he was an Air Force captain. you know? And so transformation can happen more quickly if you really start with what your thinking is, and getting insights and subtle shifts and aha moments can break open things that are barriers that you don't even know are playing in the background, that will get you more into inspired action, and not just taking the steps that you go, okay, I'll try that. And even when you do take the steps, being committed to your vision of what it can look like in the future, but not attached to it happening next week,
Well,
and
yeah,
enjoying the
actually,
process along the way.
I was going to say that because since the 80s, I've been very much into meditation and spirituality and believing in positive, putting out the positive, and you get back what you put out. The one lesson that I learned in the 80s, it doesn't always happen in the time frame that you think it's going to happen. That is actually, I'm glad you said that, because that's one of the things that frustrates people. It's like you think that you're going to put out positive energy and it's going to come back to you immediately. Sometimes it does, but not always. Sometimes it's brewing. Sometimes you put out something that starts percolating in the universe, and you also have to be smart enough to see when you're getting your answers. That's my personal belief. You have to actually recognize the answers when they come. Sometimes we miss them. Um,
That's what the law of attraction is all about. It's a three-step process for anybody who's into that. I'm a big follower of Abraham Hicks, tons of videos and audios on YouTube, but it's a three-step process. First, it's the desire. This is what I want, the visualization. Then the stepping back and let the universe line it all up for you. And then the third step is being aware enough and receptive for when it's being brought to you. That's the awareness, that's the presence.
it
And
always,
and
doesn't always look like what you think it's going to look like.
Exactly. So that's the thing about planning. Yes, I love the planning. I've got a color-coded Gmail calendar, right? So I I love to plan, but then I also
They
know,
frighten me.
well, fear, everything you want is just on the other side of fear, Bob.
Okay.
Everything. So, and that's where resistance comes in. I don't want to use an electronic calendar. I don't want to put it in the calendar. What happens if I can't make it? Reschedule it. I mean, what if I move from New York to California? What can happen? What if I don't like it? Move back. I mean, literally, we are on this planet to play, and we're in an industry that, it's not brain surgery. It's not life or death. It's fun, it's light, it's joyful, and the thing that I love most is it brings joy and light to other people. We get to, as creators, not only fulfill our own desires, but what we create out in the world impacts other people. And I know that's why we're storytellers.
I had a
Um,
spiritual teacher, again, back in the 80s, who used to always say to me, Theater can be drama or theater can be play, and you choose."
ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, there's all those, almost every cliche that I find myself using, I find is true. It's true for a reason. And it's said over and over and over again
That's why
because
it's a
there's such,
cliche.
that's why it's a cliche. Yeah. Like, the joy is in the journey. It is. If you can't be joyful on the journey between here and here, you will not get here. Law. I mean, you can't go, I want to make $1 million, next year, or whatever your monetary goal is, or whatever. I want to have my play done, or my musical, or I want to have X, Y, and Z as an outcome, and then throw doubt, throw despair, throw, oh, that didn't work out. along the way, it will take longer and longer. And sometimes it just cycles and cycles. And if you know, look back on your life, if you've been doing the same thing for the past 10 years, what is the cliche? Insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. But
Yeah,
there's a
but what
difference
I
between
think that was a cliche that Einstein said, so I think it's smart.
it's a smart cliche, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it really comes down to the distinction between action and inspired action. So what I found as a coach in the past, what I was doing is I was teaching everybody the actions, telling them what to do, not telling them, teaching them what to do in a knowledge gap. And but not, and this was my fault, creating enough of the inspiration part or the opportunity to look at the context that your content is inside. So I was born on October 10th, so I'm a Libra, very balanced. So I'd like to think now that I'm finally coming into my own with my new version of Act Outside the Box. Um, I and in a nutshell, what I do is I help, because I'm going to say the dirty word, people, money. I help people monetize their artistic businesses, through many different program offerings. But the magnetic mindset free online series where I've interviewed everybody else and their take on what it takes to be a creative entrepreneur, what it takes to make money in business, what it takes to get eyes on what you do and visibility and feel good and be joyful. I mean, these 24 people are astounding. And this has been such a labor of love. And it's a free series. So when we're done here, I'll put it all in the chat. If you haven't been able to sign up yet, please do. It comes via email. And if you sign up today, Bob's episode drops tomorrow. So you'll be all signed up. You'll get email in your email box and the video, and you click it and you'll hear our interview. And
Just so you know, I booked her for tomorrow, and she decided to put me on the next day. So it was her smart thinking, not mine.
well, you gotta have a gimmick.
Thanks,
It's
Tessie.
it, and this is the other thing too. We're all artistic, and I have a seminar that I created a long time ago. I don't even know the name of it. But one of the things around show business is if you want a business, if you want a successful business, then you have to think like a business person. If you think like an artist, you're a starring artist. So it is both. So, yes, be creative, be flowy, meditate, let it come to you. That is so very important. Be that. And if it's a hobby, awesome. We have community theater. We have, you can put stuff on YouTube. You can do monologues and put them on your Facebook. But if you want this as a career, as a business, as a money making part of your life, then there is a whole nother side of your brain that is marketing, numbers, business, goals, outcomes that you want, by whens, and we put it all into an existence system or time. And then you have to be willing for it to all go to hell,
Oh,
right? Because as you plan, and then a new opportunity will come your way and you go, maybe I could pivot over here, but is that going to serve the intended outcome? Or, oh, here's a new person that just showed up with, X, Y, and Z skill set. Or so you have to, again, those are the signs that you were talking about, Bob. You have to be aware, stay focused. And when I say, pivot, doesn't mean get distracted. That's the shiny object syndrome, ADD crap that's going on in the world right now, right? You also have to be aware of this isn't working out, and I want to give up, and I want to quit, and it's too hard, and or I don't want to learn how Instagram works. That was me. That was me, folks. I was like, I hate social media. Not being on it, put me on. I got no problem. But if I have to learn how to do a reel and touch a button, and then I got over that and said, I'm going to learn. I am no Instagram genius, but I am failing wonderfully. Failing wonderfully. I'm not tagging on the hashtag. I'm like, I don't know. Um, like I said, I like live better, but I have a preference. But now I'm like, I'm playing this game, and I'm gonna fail my way to success on
so
Instagram.
So let's set the foundation a little bit, and also I want to remind the room that we'd like to hear from you. So put your questions in the chat, and Owen, you'll let us know if any questions come up or any comments come up that might be of interest that we would lead to an interesting discussion. Um, so let's go to the building blocks. You said this already, but let's repeat it. Magnetic mindset this is the basic building block of this entire process, or
Yeah. I learned this. Listen, anything I say, I learned from somebody else, right? And then here's the other thing I want to say before I say what I say. Words don't teach. Experience teaches. So if you hear something today, take it into your own world and experience it. Try it, do it. But what I've learned from somebody else is that thoughts, it's like a system. Thoughts literally lead to your feelings, right? If you think a negative thought, you have a negative feeling. If you think a positive thought, you'll have a positive feeling. And those feelings lead to your actions or inaction, right? So if you have a negative feeling about that and you're then you're going to sit on the couch and complain about it, right? But if you have a positive thought, which leads to a positive feeling, you get inspired to take inspired action, and that leads to your results. So what you think is directly correlated to your outer real world experience. Period, 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 exclamation point. And
we're also resistant to the idea that we have choice, that we can choose how we feel. We all assume that we feel what we feel because it's ingrained and it's natural and it's what happens. If this happens, we feel that. That's not the truth. The truth is not that at all. We all have the ability to choose how we will respond to any situation. And
may I use a today example?
Sure.
So the stock market plunged again another 1,700 points after losing what 15 or 16 yesterday. So if whether you have money in the stock market or not, I do. Um, here's the thought. There are people who are freaking scared out of their mind and they're selling at a loss and they're holding on to their money because they don't know what's going to happen. And then there are people who like, this is a cycle. I'm just going to let it settle down. And by the way, I'm going to buy when the stocks are low. So the same circumstances happening and two different attitudes, right? I'm in fear for my life. I'm going to lose everything. It's never going to get better. And then there's the people who are like, this could be a real opportunity. Just depends on what you think. Just saying. That's just a real
Agreed.
world.
Totally agreed. And basically, these are realizations and understandings that I took with me in the 80s. In the 80s, for those of you who can't make the connection, that was the age of AIDS. That was the decade of AIDS. And we had the opportunity to choose hopelessness. And many people did, and some of us chose hope. And I remember being like, somebody would say, well, but that's false hope. False hope is a terrible thing. You don't want to give people false hope. I don't agree with that. I don't think there's any such thing as false hope. Somebody's out has their. Oh, let me think who's interrupting me. Okay, so there's no such thing as false hope. Hope is hope, and basically, if you hope for something and you feel positive about it for 2 weeks, and then something happens that isn't what you would hope for, at least you had 2 weeks of feeling positive. If it wasn't the outcome that you were hoping for, that doesn't mean you should stop hoping. You can still choose to be positive. So I think today, the statement I want to make today is just choose to be positive for everybody.
It is a choice. And, it's so interesting. I'd like to make the distinction between choices and decisions. So we can make choices daily and yes, around the thoughts, but chocolate or vanilla, choose. And it's just a choice and it won't really affect the grand scheme. And then decisions carry more weight because decisions seem to have a time element put on them, right? But what I love about the thoughts is if a thought comes across your mind and it's a negative thought, really you can just choose a different thought if you practice it enough. And if you can't flip it completely from a negative to a positive, then go general. That's one of the things I've learned. Go general. And one of my favorite ways to go general is to go to YouTube and watch, babies laughing and lots of puppies. Like if I'm having a negative, like, I can't believe this is happening, and I recognize it in the moment that I recognize it, I know that I want to choose a different thought. I can't just go to, oh, I've won an Oscar. I go to something that's a little bit more general that I know, like I go pet my dog or I go for a walk. I just get to the next better feeling place. And then when you're in momentum around that, you can choose and choose and choose and choose and choose better feeling, better feeling, better feeling thoughts.
Um,
It's so
I just,
fun.
again, I want to remind the room that we're looking for your input. We'd like to be able to make this a conversation to whatever degree we can. Um, can I ask you to give any like one or two steps in terms of you talked about attracting representation, which for actors means an agent. It also means an agent for writers, but God knows I don't know very many writer agents that are open to new clients. But yeah,
Well, the first thing I want to say about getting an agent, which I've always said to everybody that's ever hired me to help them to get an agent, is let's look at why you want one. Because there's a thought process, maybe not here, but for most people, is that once I get an agent, I've made it, man. Now I have representation. Now either I can be either more relaxed around this marketing thing, or they're going to do the majority of the heavy lifting, or they're going to pick up the phone and pitch everything I do. And I try to look at that thinking and saying that's incorrect thinking. It's incorrect thinking. It's not good. It's not bad. Yes, we still want to have representation, but let's flip it a little bit like this. I don't want you to put all the power into their hands. Like they're here and we're here. And if we could just get somebody to take us on, then our lives will be better. I want you to flip it like this. I am the creator of my own business. I'm the CEO and I want it to look a certain way. I'm adding a representative to my team, even if the team is just you and them, so that I can further my network of influence, so that I can tap into not only my own resources, but theirs as well. Because I'll tell you, once you get that agent, that's when your real work begins. That's when you want to be in more momentum. That's when you want to work with that representative to go out and put you out even further in the world. And I tell you, because of this lovely internet, because of this Zoom, because of the social media, because of the ability to reach a worldwide audience, now I hate to say it, I'm not going to say it like it's true, but we don't need reps the way we used to need them before. You can get and tout your actor business, your playwriting, your play, your whatever your creative project or product is all by yourself. You can put it on social media, you can get on podcasts, you can create your own, you have the control. So I want my first thing in the correct thinking of representation is it is a team. They're not above you, you're not above them. You work together and you want to I used to do this back in my live seminar days. Think of it like dating. You're not going to go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I got a date. I got a date. Somebody took me out on a date. Oh, yes, we're going to get married. And now my life is solved, right? You want to find if there's a fit. You want to feel if you have the same vision for your marriage. You want to feel that they acknowledge you, accept you, have your back, and you also them. That's the other thing, too, is, agents only make 10% or managers or whatever the percentage is when you sell something, when you are booked for work, and often they are working harder on your behalf than you are. That's why, honestly, I was there pushing buttons all day, submitting, and like the lottery, if I got an audition for you and then I heard from you going, oh, I can't get it in on time, or that's it. And these agents these days are just trying to put food on the table and stay in business just like you are. So representation isn't the be all end all pinnacle. It is a part of the path to what you really want. So I would focus on what is it that you really want and look at that as one resource, but then look at all the other resources because the old days of the old funnel of the way it used to work, gone forever, gone forever. The playing
That
field is much more even.
and that's one of the reasons why we are very supportive of self-producers. I mean, artists can always wait around wondering when something's going to happen, or they can take it into their own hands, which is what you're saying. You basically take it into your own hands and make it happen. You're not exactly suggesting that they produce themselves, but I am suggesting that. I'm suggesting that if nothing else is happening and you want to get showcased, make it happen yourself.
I
Um,
will give you the answer to the attraction part, right? So if you want to attract an agent as an actor, if you want to attract in the playwright world, either it's an audience or a representative or however it works, because I'm not as familiar. The point is you have to have your online presence speak for you and speak for you clearly. I have a book on my shelf here, which I've always recommended, has nothing to do with acting. It's by Malcolm Gladwell. It's called Blink. And it's how quickly we assess and judge unconsciously and subconsciously. So put yourself a representative's shoes, put yourself in who they're pitching you to, the casting directors, or the next level that they're representing you to. So you always want to take them into consideration. A, fast, 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 fast. Nobody is looking at your script the way you are, giving it the time and attention. Nobody is looking at your casting platform and giving it the time and attention that you are. They don't have the time and attention to give it. So, how do you make your online presence short, sweet, to the point, and scream exactly what it is you're selling? Whether it's your actor product, whether it's got to happen quickly. I heard the statistic. I can't remember it, but like people literally when they're looking at applications, if they give it 7 to 10 seconds, that's a lot. Which is why YouTube, when you're going on a YouTube and the ad comes up, it's 4 seconds before you can skip. You have 4 seconds as an advertiser to capture that attention. And then people on the other end, the advertisers are looking, oh, did they stay on the ad 7 seconds, 30 seconds? Trust me, in the background, there's all the statistics analytics for a reason. So put yourself in your agent's shoes, casting director's shoes, 3 and 4 deep, your audience's shoes. What can you produce online? What can you say in a place like this that is succinct, that people get you, and how you serve them?
in a way, this is answering something that Sarah was asking, but I want to pull it out specifically in terms of attracting representation while simultaneously being authentic to how does she attract representation while being authentic to herself and her values? Um, I think
I
this
would
is what you were suggesting, which is basically you have
Okay,
to
I
get
have
to
represented the second part of her question. I'm trying to read because the first part I don't really, and I have represent only doing work that's enough within my value system. I'd love to talk to Sarah. Sarah, there, are you willing to talk with me? I don't quite understand. Are you trying to say
yeah,
that
turn on your mic.
your values are different than what your agent is sending you out for? Or you haven't had is there a communication gap? What's going on?
So thank you so much for taking that question. I'd be glad to expand on that a little bit and explain that a little bit more. Um, I guess I'll start with I took an on-camera class by a really awesome person. I'm going to go ahead and give him a shout out, though you may never meet him because he's in Minnesota. But his name is Bill Cooper. He's awesome. And I took the on-camera class because I said, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this. I think this might be a good way to be able to earn some money while I'm still doing all these other things, right? And and then I said, but I'm also not sure. I'm not sure that I'm the person to be in this commercial. Like, I ride around on my bicycle. I volunteered at an orphanage in Haiti. My housemate makes homemade laundry detergent. Like, am I the person to sell people things that they don't need? And there are things that people need, obviously, definitely things that people need. But um, there are also things that people don't need. Or maybe there's a film that I'm like, although I love stories, like this particular story does not appeal to me.
Well,
And
Sarah, this seems like it's a choice that you make. You get it, you get yourself, you attract something that comes into your life, and then you have to decide whether it's something that is right for you or not. Um, I totally understand what you're saying. Um, People have been
so
cast in shows and then left because it did not respond, it did not correspond to their values. And right now, I'm very sensitive about values. I think everybody in our society, in our community, is very sensitive about having the values that things that we value are different than things that other people value clearly. So, uh, are you asking whether an agent will be patient with you if you turn down roles that they cast you in? Because
I guess
I see that as a potential issue.
I guess I'm asking, how do I navigate the business? Lisa has talked about how short a time it is of like evaluating there's someone or not. And I feel like what I am bringing to artistry is significantly more than someone might be able to see in a short amount of time. And I want to have personal agency to make artistic choices for myself and decide which projects I'm part of and which projects I'm not part of. How do I navigate the business without potentially making someone really, really, really annoyed with me or feeling angry because the business is going, it's moving, the train is happening, train is going and like we're kind of a cog in the wheel of this industry, right? So like I recognize that. I recognize people who have these big jobs and they have to figure out how to put all the pieces together to make the thing happen. But I also want to be authentic to myself. And particularly, like I do a lot of work with youth. I want to be able to represent
I'm
myself
just
in a
going to
way that I feel
stop you,
okay
Sarah.
doing that.
Sarah, you've shared a lot, and all of it is interesting, and all of it is complicated. And
I have a my take on it if you'll let
yes,
me, and
yeah,
then we could go on to something. But here's the thing: you mentioned commercials and products. I wanted to distinguish. Are you talking about being a commercial actor promoting products that people don't need, or are you talking about stories and movies and TV shows that just distinguish that for me?
I'm talking
both.
about, I've had an artistic practice of over 20 years that has mostly been theater work, local theater work. I've done very, very little on camera work.
Okay, so
And
you took an
I need
on-camera
to pay
class.
also bills. And so as
Right.
I like approach that area, how do I navigate that?
Okay, so here's how you navigate it. First of all, I'm going to try to make this a short answer because I don't know how long this is supposed to go, but because I could speak on this subject for years, like
Okay.
because it's taken years to develop
Okay.
my what I'll call an informed opinion. First of
Okay.
all, um, don't forget everybody has choice. You have choice. The agent has choice. The casting director has choice. The if we're talking commercials, the ad agency has choice, and ultimately the consumer has choice. And none of those choices are under your control. So you shouldn't worry about them. You shouldn't worry about them. If you don't want to do liquor ads because that doesn't represent your values, if you don't want to do cigarette ads, which nobody does anymore because they're not allowed, if you don't want to do, I don't know, the kinds of ads that don't resonate for you, then that's a conversation you have with your representative. And if you're not represented, those are things you won't self submit for. And there has to be agreements so that it doesn't come back to bite you in the ass later. Like, oh, you submitted me for this. Oh, that doesn't reflect my values. So no thanks. You will get dropped in a heartbeat. So going in, when you're seeking representation, it's like dating, right? Like I will date once a smoker, but not twice. It's a deal breaker for me. And I know my deal breakers. So the first thing is to distinguish that for yourself. Same thing for I won't do nudity. I won't show my butt. I won't say F words. Whatever it is in a theatrical piece on camera, you have to have your choices. And then you get to say, I won't submit. I won't push the button for that, or if I push the button for that and I get into the process and I find out later, it's like, I'm really sorry. Either can you rewrite it or read it because it just doesn't match my values. Or you have that conversation with your representative. You have control every step of the way. You really do. I feel like you're getting too worried that somewhere you're going to get pulled into this place where you're just going to feel so terrible because it doesn't match your values. No, you have control every step of the way. But if these agreements aren't particularly with a rep in advance, remember they don't get paid and they don't put food on the table until you book. So if you throw up an impediment, as long as it's agreed, I'm not going to submit you for this kind of stuff. Okay, great. And if they do by accident, I had an agent once submit me for a commercial that the usage was in perpetuity. I never do in perpetuity, which means forever. I was going to get paid one amount forever. I'm like, never. And I coach people never to do that. And I didn't see it. It didn't come to me on the algorithm. And literally, I was on set. And I had the horrible choice to screw up the entire commercial or say yes to it. And I hated it. And I felt terrible. And I did say yes because I wasn't going to, but I also negotiated more money. Now, it wasn't about the money. It was about my integrity because I teach don't do it. But I said, if I'm going to cross my own boundaries here, you're going to pay me more money. And they did. And then they never aired it, which is great.
That's a short perpetuity.
Yeah, it was short, because they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't, was for Eucora, which is a urinary tract infection, not a pharmaceutical, a nutraceutical. And they do Eucora commercials. And the woman who invented it is in her own commercials now. So I'm like, whatever. Point is that just know your values, be in communication, have agreements, and you're in charge.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for
That
speaking to that.
You're
Wow,
welcome.
that's so yeah, so amazingly helpful. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room have any specific questions for Lisa about
And
how
I'm gonna,
to put this to use for you and make this useful for you in the days that come?
by the way, I'm just,
Oh, Tita,
I'm
I keep losing your voice, your vocal, Lisa. Something happens when you get too close.
I'm going to say I put my stuff in the chat. The first link is the Magnetic Mindset online show. That's the full URL that's behind the short one that you gave. The other one is my website, and then the other one's my email. Feel free to be in touch.
So, Tita, why don't you ask your question now? Are you able to put your mic on and ask it? Well, okay. Related question from Tita. How to balance using focused energy on what I want and trying to control versus aligning with mutual collaborative energies that may not produce what I want. The less personal, less west. Tita, I need you to ask this because I don't know if I'm giving the right pauses and using the commas right. Are you there?
How about using focus energy on what I want and trying to control versus aligning with mutual collaborative energies?
That may not produce what I want. A less personal, less Western connection to. So you're basically saying to subsume your basic and she can't get a cell to open her audio. Okay, so
Audio.
I'm thinking that she's saying, what if you're in a situation where you may not be getting your values may not be filled, but there's a community value that is being fulfilled here. And can you be willing? Well, it's a choice again. Can you be willing to be collaborative because you believe in the group want rather than the individual want,
Oh, I
perhaps?
so want to talk to you, Tita. Like swipe up or swipe down and wait till you get the little microphone and then tap it. The cell phone is hard on Zoom. Um, I'll just give you a general thing on energy. The more like I went over the law of attraction stuff, right? The more you are in desire and then you allow the universe to bring you the cooperative components, and you recognize them, the more in momentum the universe will be bringing you more cooperative components and cooperative energies. And then a reflex that I've developed is my emotional guidance system. If I feel icky because of a person, I'll check in and I'll go, what's icky? Are they reminding me something of my past? Did they say something that's just so negative I can't be with? Are they a troublemaker? And I'll check in, and then, once I'll let it go because people have a bad day. Twice, three times, I'm out. I just
Tita,
don't like that person.
Tita, I
I'm
see that
sorry.
Tita's mic is on. Tita, can you say something?
Yeah, okay.
There you are. Okay.
You were pretty close to what I meant was I've seen people that just visualize, aim their magnetic energy madly, trying to control, versus not trying like I want an agent, but somehow a less Western. I want use of the energy rather than something else that's more receiving, aligning.
Yeah. Are you talking about other people or yourself or the people around you that are? So there's the trying
Well,
the
a lot
people
of
that.
what I was hearing from your examples, more kind of like, well, this is what I want. And I was looking for something that's more aligning with the universe.
So there's the distinction between making it happen and allowing it to happen. So there's a certain certainty and knowing as a place to come from in realizing your vision, right? The more specific, the more good, for lack of a better adjective, you feel about that vision, the more positively you speak about it to receptive people, that momentum carries you forward. There are people who also have a vision, but they make it happen by intruding and interjecting and forcefulness. There's a distinction between power and force. Powerful is sitting back in that knowing that I am committed to my vision coming into reality. Again, whether it's getting an agent, whether it's anything you want to put into that bucket. And then taking the inspired actions to have it show up. But yeah, I've carved a lot of people out of my life. Is RK still here? He knows one of them.
Oh, I'm glad it wasn't RK.
It wasn't RK. RK is
He's
wonderful,
here.
but if he's still here, somebody, yeah, there's some people I just don't have in my life anymore. Their energy, and it's not, and here's the other thing I want to say. It didn't work for me anymore. The other thing I've learned to do is allow people that nobody has to change who they are, what they do to please me. I just choose to not spend time in that energy anymore. And that's a choice and a decision I've made. Right. Um, so I have a carefully crafted community and I invite people to do the same. I just read this book, not this book, this article today. Oh gosh, I'm going to put the URL in here. It was amazing. I emailed it to myself and it's 40. Is it okay if I put this article in here? It came from
Yeah,
Hollywood
sure.
Reporter. I don't even know. The universe brings me stuff I don't know where it comes from. Um, and it's in my, does everybody know what stage 32 is?
I don't.
It's like an online collaborative space. Um, well, that's not the one. I emailed too many articles to myself. Uh, and then I hopefully have time to go back and read them. But it was like it's called 40 Things I Wish I Had Known when I blah blah blah. Oh, here we go. This is it. 40 Things to Know About a Creative Career. And it's so right on that everybody should read this. I didn't even get through the whole thing because I'm busy, right? I kept it to get back to, but even just one of the things it says. And it's all in this same mindset realm. I'm going to put this in the chat. Let me go back here. this is worth, it's long, right? So I
Make sure you're
think if
doing it
you,
to the, make sure you're doing the group. Yeah, there it is.
yeah,
We
yeah.
got it.
The thing is I subscribe to Medium. I pay $50 a year. It's an online article curator. I think you can read 1 to 5 articles without paying. So hopefully you can open that. But it's just the most fabulous thing. I wish I'd known about building a career in the arts. This is going to make such a difference for people on this call right now. And this just came to me today. I'm receptive, right? Here's the thing. You will lose this is number 2. You will lose friends, be misunderstood, and fail to live up to people's expectations. Burnt bridges and friendships, fractured beyond repair, are often the collateral damage of a creative life. This is the fatal flaw of our humanity. Nothing will hurt more. I wish I could tell you that this won't happen to you or that you're beyond this, but it will happen and you're not beyond this. So there are people that have been in my life for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and then based on who I've grown myself to be and what I'm up to in this carefully crafted community that I won't tolerate anymore as far as negativity or the way I'm treated, and they're out. Even though I knew him for 15 years, even though I collaborated with him, even though I called him a close friend, I just got older and wiser. I don't know what it is. And now when I make new friends, I have a big criteria. And when I enter into business relationships, I'm very careful how I communicate. And when I work with clients, it's got to be a win-win. I'm just as like, I can't be more for your outcomes than you are, right? So everything's got to be a win-win.
Jasmine has a good question. What would you
Yeah.
say are some signs that the universe is bringing you the things you were trying to attract along the journey? How can you train yourself to become more aware of those things?
You feel good.
Yeah, check into your feelings. Um,
It's your emotional guidance system, right?
a lot of times we fail to notice things that are happening because we're caught up in other things. And basically, you have to you have to get yourself out of your. We get all wound up in things, and we're moving very fast all the time. And we're trying to get things done. I think one of the things that's obvious is slow down, take the time to notice. Um, uh, if something happens and you go, why is this happening? And you're exasperated and you're like shaking your head and going, what is this crazy? Why is this happening right now? Rephrase it as, okay, why is this happening? What we tend to dismiss it because it's upsetting us in the moment or confusing us in the moment. That's when you have to take a deep breath and say, let me look at this again.
Why is this perfect? It's happening. Why is this perfect? Why is this what's my lesson here, right? How is this perfect that I just lost my job? How is this perfect that I just lost 20%? There's always an opportunity. And Bob, I love the quietness, the meditation, having some kind of practice to center yourself so that you can be in that receptive mode. If it's just sitting outside in Central Park or listening to the birds or taking a walk
Or
or
deep breaths,
taking 3 deep breaths.
three
I
deep
mean,
breaths.
we say this stuff and we think, oh yeah, I'll do it, and then we don't do it because we're so busy. Da, 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 da. But
You know, I'd say I even go so far as Jasmine is to say, notice when you are distracted. Notice when you are so consumed that you're distracted, and then say, wait a second, what's happening around me? Check in from time to time. I mean, maybe not every moment, although I would suggest checking in every moment, but that's a big ask. Um,
it's a muscle too. It's like going to the gym. You can't go to the gym once and then go, oh my God, this feels so good, and then never go back and expect it to stay. So I say that when you do recognize those moments that surprise and delight you because you were receptive and you notice a sign and you go, oh my God, milk it. Go, oh my God. And then spend as much time in that feeling place so that you'll recognize it again. Conversely, when you have that, get out of there as fast as you can. Don't let that grab a hold of you and give that any momentum. So that's when you go watch, babies and kittens on YouTube. Or call a friend. That's the biggest, surest way, not to complain, but if you want to shift out of a bad mood into a good mood, call somebody you love. Call a friend and just chat. Say hi, by the way, get the attention off yourself. How are you? Be in communication. Life is lived in a conversation
with the universe,
with each other. And,
with each other, but also I
yeah,
actually believe that we talked with the universe. I think we interact with the universe.
absolutely. Absolutely. I draw angel cards. I have a little bag of talismans every day.
I'm
I do one a day. And
I meditate to angels. So
yeah, we believe in angels.
we believe in angels. That's the other thing. A helpful belief may not fit everybody, but a helpful belief is that wherever you are is the perfect place to be. It's exactly where you're supposed to be. Always assume that whatever's happening is what's supposed to be happening. Always assume that the universe is wise.
Some people call it God, some people call it the universe, some people call it Buddha, Allah, whatever, but it's the source that's greater than ourselves and what we see, right? And both, I think no matter what religion you are, whether you're spiritual or non-religious, that when this meat sack ceases on this planet, that who we really are lives on, right? We got lucky. We got born, right? How many sperm and eggs out there in the world missed out of all the possibilities. And we came here and we're here to experience contrast and joy and creativity. And by the way, we're also the lucky chosen people that recognized our own creative power. We didn't want to be a doctor. I mean, that's great. We didn't choose to be the other jobs that aren't in the creative industry. We chose to be storytellers. We chose to pass on wonderful feelings to other people through our stories, to make people think, to have people have experiences, right? And what a pleasure and a responsibility, right?
We
So
have a Simpson hand. We have a Simpson hand. Sam,
My little Simpson hand. Just I guess a short little backstory about me was back in when 2020 happened, and everything shut down. I didn't realize how burnt out I was from just auditioning all the time and taking roles that didn't align with me, but I needed the job. And so during the little break, I guess, I tried to use that time to benefit myself, and I stumbled over holistic wellness. And I ended up taking a course at IIN, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, just out of curiosity, and took my little baby steps along the way, and started to realign myself more with who I was and my values, and not feeling ashamed. That's why I'm like loving this conversation right now. Not feeling ashamed to speak out for what actually aligns with me, and not just taking, any job just all around in my life, just because I felt like I had to. And along the way, like I lost 75 pounds. I didn't know that I was holding on to, like, there was just so much that I shed. And I stepped away from theater for a while to really go through that metamorphosis. And now it's like I'm slowly dipping my toe back in. Well, slowly, it's probably been over 6 months now, but dipping my toe back into the theater world, feeling like a new person, feeling like, I know what I want. My vision's clear again. It's not all muddied up by other people's perceptions of me, or like what, a producer wants from me, or maybe I need to lose more weight to look a certain way or whatever. It's like I see very clearly now, and now it's just protecting that space and trying not to let the muddiness come back in, and always like realigning to the core of like what I had found. So
you
yeah,
can't lose it. Don't worry about that. You can't lose it. You're now aware
yeah.
of how you want to feel,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not protection. It's just a boundary that when people and feelings and situations come and cross that boundary, that you recognize it immediately and go, no, thank you. I make another choice.
Yes, yes, I love
So
that.
don't like protect yourself from fear that it's going to come back, because you
Mm-hmm.
want to leave a portal open for the good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I like that way of looking at it. Thank you.
so those of you who come to these community gatherings, and those of you who've known me for 20 or 30 years and have seen me lead meetings and all that, in the 80s, I led meditation circles and I led crystal circles, and that's what I'm doing, guys. I'm basically facilitating your your ability to learn and grow and find new things about the world and about yourself. Liz, and then Patricia.
Yep. Hello. So I've just been loving this conversation. I had a question about just attracting energy and when you're like attracting something into your life and then something pops up, a sign or opportunity, and you're like, oh my God, this is perfect. This is what I'm attracting. How do you keep that but not get too attached to the outcome where it's like you get there, then you're like, oh wait, maybe I was, too attached to having this certain outcome that I wasn't allowing the energy to just be what it is.
Wish I had the answer. I don't. Being committed but unattached is a practice. It's an
Hmm.
experience you have to have over and over and over again. And by the way, the universe gives it to you anyway. You commit to something and then it doesn't turn out. And then you get to experience how it feels not to turn out.
Mhm.
It's how you're feeling and how you're being and how you're responding when the thing you were committed to didn't turn out. That will be the muscle that you exercise for the next time it doesn't turn out.
One of the things that works for me is to assume that I'm one step closer. I might not be where I wanted to be, but it's gotten me a step closer.
Exactly, because all the experience that you gained in that first thing was what you'll take into the next one. And here's the thing, things not turning out the way you envisioned them is going to happen 99% of the time.
Yeah. Yep.
And I mean, I'm
Yep.
sorry, this is right?
Accurate.
Yeah. And so it's what did you learn along the way that you can take into the next time? And again, this isn't about making it happen. It's about allowing it happen with more grace and ease and still putting out your vision and creating the goals and doing the stuff. And really it's about paying the most attention to your emotions and how you feel, you know, along the way. I know another big thing that humans have, it's not just this creative community, it's time. It's like, I want it yesterday. I want to think about it and I want it to manifest next week. When I ran Actors Connection, that was the hardest thing is the expectation of coming in, meeting an agent, and if you didn't get a phone call having a new rep by the following week, you were disappointed. And I kept saying, no, this is not the best use of this tool. You're planting seeds, you're learning, and not everybody's a fit, right? So, but that can only come through experience. So the amount of time too is to not worry about. Did I say it here? Because I've had two other Zooms I was on earlier, but I'll say it here. I'll repeat it if I said it before, because I got this from one of my guests that I interviewed, an actor who's also a real estate entrepreneur. Um, he said, and it's one of those insights that I got from learning from people. People overestimate what they can accomplish in a year, but they severely underestimate what they can accomplish in 10 years.
Mm.
And that really hit home for me because we're so like immediate gratification people, you know. But if you realized that vision and it took you 10 years to do it and you realized it, would you be unhappy? No, you realized it. So
I'm going to take a question from Patricia, but I just want to check in with you. Do you have a heart out at any time?
for me,
Yeah.
no.
Okay. So Patricia, Simpson hand. I love Simpson hand.
This has been so interesting, and the what I'm seeing clearly that's so cool is that a lot of what I think Bob does and Lisa and me is that we're helping us all, ourselves too, to learn where it is we have agency and to take control where we can, but understanding that, as an actor, for example, or a writer, there's a certain amount of passivity involved in those jobs, sort of that way. We've probably heard the story of like, how does a spider has this web and it goes from, this point to this point way over here. And they say, well, how does that spider get the web to go from there to there? And they say, well, they just spin it and then the wind comes along and attaches it to that other thing that's too far for the spider to have reached by itself. And, Bob is
empowering writers to learn how to go from doing our craft and putting it on the page to then being able to make it happen in the world. And, Lisa, you were saying that with actors, you could say, do this, this, and this, but if they weren't right in their emotional lives and centered enough to see that they have power. It's not just I write this great play or I work on my acting skills and then somebody will come along and give me something and that will be fantastic. And when you're young, and I don't know how much of this has to do with maturity, but when you're young, you think when somebody says, well, do these steps, that they're like a teacher at school saying, do this homework, you have to do A, B, and C. Don't do it if you don't want. Don't do it. But then you won't get what you want either, most likely. Maybe you will, but you probably won't. And I think as we grow and mature, we start understanding that it's awesome to have power. It's all, like you're in control. You decide which work you want. If you don't want to sell cigarettes, don't sell them. And I think it's really great that there are those of us within the community who have come up as artists ourselves who are learning to teach this to others because it's a lifetime of going from powerless to empowered.
I'd like to add a subtle shift in there that I learned from do you remember then when that book Rich Dad Poor Dad was very big back?
Yeah.
Okay, Robert Kiyosaki. Well, he
Yeah.
wrote a book after that called The Cash Flow Quadrant, where it went funk for me, where he talked about there's only 4 ways to make money, and I'm bringing it back to money. One is as an employee, as self-employed, one is as business owner, and one as is investor. So if you're an employee or even self-employed, you can't build wealth. To build wealth, you have to be a business owner and then an investor. So one of the reasons I wanted to move outside of working with strictly actors, and I still work with actors, of course, is because they have employee thinking. And employee thinking is, I have to convince somebody over there to hire me so that I can make a living. You have to pick me. I have to go do a job. I get a paycheck. And what they don't realize is that they're self-employed because we're in an industry where your job lasts 1 day, 1 week, even if it's a series, 3 years, you're lucky, whatever it is, right? That paycheck ends all the time. So you're not in an industry where you can work for 20 years and get a paycheck. I don't think anybody is anymore, but that's employee thinking. I think if people in the creative industry, I think people in the creative industry who are writers or script writers or have a musical or who then also know that they have to sell it, they're business owners. You have a business, and then now your job is, how do I bring my widget to market? How do I get investors, or I become an investor? Now you're on the other side of the spectrum, and that's a different thought process. And that's where I feel I can make a big impact because you're already in that other way of thinking. I'll work with both, but it's a 2-step process for the actor. I have to teach them they're in a business, it's a business, and then I have to teach them the business. So broadening the scope, but if you're here, I just wanted you to make that mental shift for yourself, because the control, the power that you're talking about is over on being a business owner. Because now, by the way, if you haven't opted into the Magnetic Mindset Show, if you do so today, you'll get Joe Zija's interview. But even if you miss it and you see Bob's tomorrow, you can go back and see the day before. He talks about this, that he left the world of corporate, and that's when he got it, to the world of being his own, creative business owner. He creates the rungs on his ladder. He gets to say, this is my next step. And then this is my next step. And then this is my next step. And there's power in that. When you leave climbing the rungs of the ladder to somebody else, oh, I can't get my series until I get an agent, and I can't get an agent until X, Y, you know what I mean? There is a path to that. But it's a mindset shift. It's a mindset shift that the power is in your hands. Treat your creative career as you being the CEO and the business owner and getting to say what your next steps are. And if you need help with what those next steps are, that's a knowledge gap. And that's where coaches comes in. That's where community comes in. That's where playing with cooperative, like-minded, fun, high-vibing people come in.
Yes,
So just want to put that in there.
and that is great because that's what I have learned, that when I'm working with artists, a lot of what I have to teach them comes back to that employee or owner mindset. And I was just teaching these songwriters who write mainly pop things, pop standalone songs, but they were interested in learning how musicals get written. And they were saying, oh, whenever I've written songs, for a TV show or for a movie, and then they come back and they want this changed and that changed. And, I just couldn't write a musical where they keep telling me I have to rewrite it. And I was like, who's telling you? It's your show. You're in charge. If you don't want to fix it, don't fix it. If you think it's going to make your show better, then you would want to, but they couldn't wrap their head around the fact that they were not being told, for some reasons they couldn't comprehend, that they needed to make changes. Like, they couldn't get their head around from being a hired gig person to understanding that it's yours. You own it. You want it to be the best. You make changes, even though it's more work, because it ends with you. You're the bottom line.
At the beginning of a career, when you're younger, I don't know whether it's just experience. I think it's experience. And obviously, if you've been on the planet long enough and you've stayed in the game and you haven't quit, you've garnered this experience. You start to get more of a gravitas and a certainty around, yeah, that works for me to change it, or it doesn't work for me to change it. Right. And feel a little bit more emboldened to be authentic in what works for you and what doesn't. I wish we could instill that in, what's that other cliche? We're going back to the cliches, Bob. Oh, if I knew then what I know now. Like, if we could instill that in our youth early on. But no, it's just not the design of humans. That's why I think people that get into this mindset conversation, or, I'm an early adapter. I did all these programs, self-development for years and years and years, kind of out of the gate. And then there's people who never get it.
Okay.
And the world is full of contrast for a reason.
And
But
actually,
yeah,
one thing that we never actually added into the conversation, and I don't want to open this up broadly. Just one of the tools that we need is trust, and not everybody has trust, and that's just something that if it's true for you, you have to work. You have to find a way of working through that, because I think trust is an essential tool in life. So
Well,
that's,
and that's
trusting
like
yourself.
well, and that's also the spider analogy, that you build your half and you wait.
the wind will come and blow it
Yeah,
in the
and
right direction.
how do you live in the moments when you're waiting?
The other thing too is you will get burned. If you live in fear of getting burned, I've been burned. I've been burned a lot. I've lost a ton of money. I've lost friendships. I've been betrayed. It's part of life. I mean, and the only thing I can do is, how long did it take me to recover from those things, and what lessons did I learn that I'll take into the next thing? This is a very, I love this mindset stuff because it's just so many layers of the onion. We could peel and peel and peel. I'm enjoying this conversation. And you asked if I had a heart out. I don't have a heart out, but at some point I'm going to have to go to the bathroom.
Okay. Well, I was actually going to suggest that that I sort of wrap up right now for YouTube. So I'm going to actually take this moment to thank you so much for this conversation. Oh boy, we got a new message. Is it going to be a question? Oh no, it's just a thank you. Okay, Rippy is thanking you. So I want to thank everybody who attended today. I want to thank Lisa. We've known each other such a long time, such a
Been a
long
while.
time.
Oh, and I'm so excited because Bob Ost wrote a song called "How'd You Like a Dream" with Brad Ross.
Yes.
And when you opt into Magnetic Mindset and see Bob's interview tomorrow, I've got a link to me singing that song from a cabaret I did in 2010, when all my hair was still red. I'm in transition.
I actually, anybody who wants to know a little bit more about me, for whatever reason, listen to her song. That song was a very heartfelt lyric that I wrote, and it means a lot to me. So I'm going to thank you all again. So there, and I'm actually going to take Lisa off for now, and I'm going to talk to my YouTube audience. I hope you found this interesting. I hope you have found it enjoyable. It's not our usual talk about the biz. This was much more spiritual than we normally get. If you like that, great. If it's not something that's your thing, come back next week because we'll have more practical conversations in the weeks to come. We've been doing this as a community gathering as a community service since 2020 because of shutdown. And we welcome people for free, and I honestly do mean that. If you cannot pay the ticket price to come and be part of this, come for free. It's fine. But when you can afford things, please do give us a little donation or buy a ticket or become a true member. You can go to, if you want to support us now, if you want to give us a little donation, go to trudonate.com, trudonate.com. Remember that we spell true without the E. So it's trudonate, trudonate.com. Next week, I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation. It's the other side of the table, what casting looks like, what an audition looks like to the people that do the casting. And I've got a great lineup of people. On April 18th, we're going to celebrate our 5th year and our 259th consecutive one of these things that we're doing here. So come and you're going to meet some people who've been part of the community for the past 4 or 5 years, and they're going to talk about how the community gathering has helped them navigate shutdown and also how things have changed for them. And in general, we're going to talk about life. So that's what ultimately we wind up talking about life. And then after that, I've got Mark Russell, the artistic director of the Under the Radar Theater Festival, which we used to be with Public Theater, and they cut off the funds to him like 3 years ago, and he came on our show, talked about it, and now 3 years later, he's back and it's bigger than ever. Talk about manifesting. Mark is a manifester. He's really created a miracle. And on through May and June and July, I'll keep doing this. I'll just keep doing this. So I hope you will come and join us and be a part of this. Thank you all, and see you soon, I hope. Okay.